Hello and welcome to the Heat Check, the Miami Herald's Miami Heat Show. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line by Anthony Chang, our Heat beat writer here at the Herald. Anthony, what's going on? It's been a little while.
It's been a little bit. How have you been, David?
Pretty good. Yeah, we wanted to come back last week after the Olympics, but had a couple things come up. I've really enjoyed the Olympics. Obviously, the basketball was spectacular, but honestly,
Yeah.
the whole games. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about some other sports we watched, but um, obviously we're going to talk do some Olympic wrap up here today. I know we're a little late on that, but obviously some Heat connections there. I also want to spin it forward because I don't know. It seems like the consensus is that Spo's going to be the coach in 2028. I know it's a long
hmm
way away, but I think everyone assumes that this was Steve Kerr's last run, and Spo is kind of basically was the top assistant on this team. It seemed like, and probably the most qualified active coach not to coach an Olympic team at this point. So maybe we'll talk a little about that. We'll also touch on the schedule a bit at the end. I know some Heat fans upset about the number of national TV games on the slate for Miami. But let's start with the Olympics. We'll obviously talk Bam, we'll talk Spo, but I mean, I don't know how much we're gonna be able to add to all the
The
conversations that's
conversation,
been
yeah.
around it over the last week or so, but man, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, watching LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry is pretty
Yeah,
fun.
I
Watching
know.
them play together. It's always fun every four
Yeah,
years to watch like the stars play together and find a way to kind of coexist, right, on the same team.
yeah.
Um, and actually, like, you see it in the All-Star game, but
But
the
it's so
level of
there's no yeah,
competition
there's no competition.
there's no even in the exhibition schedule, like you saw LeBron and Steph like going all out against like Serbia in a game that doesn't even matter,
Yeah, they
right?
they feel
So
pressure not to lose at any point
yeah,
because
good point.
yeah,
Yeah,
because like it would be embarrassing in like some ways.
yeah, and LeBron is still. I mean, he's gonna be 40 years old. He still was probably the best player on the team for the whole stretch.
Yeah.
Steph
I
was
would have given
Steph
I
when it
would have
mattered.
given MVP to Steph because he was the best in the only games that mattered.
Then
But yeah,
yeah,
consistency level, obviously LeBron
yeah.
was the best player.
Then you have Embiid, like Embiid, kind of the guy that got a lot of the criticism throughout the whole run because he had some bad moments, some rough moments, but he also had a big moment against Serbia. So
Yeah.
it was just fun to see like a really really talented roster. And I do think I know people like have really strong opinions about this, but I know they played close games, but I think this is the most talented Team USA roster ever. I really
Yeah.
do
I
because
mean, since
competition
the
was so
dream
different.
team, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
I
and
mean,
and the dream team didn't play anybody like
right. Yeah. Yeah.
they,
But there was a
Serbia had the
stat though that
best
the
player in the
dream
league.
team played like eight NBA play, or there were like eight other NBA players in the 90. What was dream team was 92, right? Um,
Right.
and then
It's
this one there were like 60. Like every team had
three or four at
multiple
least.
NBA
Yeah.
players. And honestly, like even the guys who aren't NBA players
They're just
are
a lot better. Yeah.
they're just NBA caliber quality players just because Gershon Yabusele signed with the Sixers after like a couple days ago after France's run, or
After dunking
uh,
on
I'm
LeBron. Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name of the Serbian point guard who went off in the first half, like was kind of going shot for shot with Curry in the first half of the semifinal game. Like that guy's probably an NBA player. He just isn't playing in the like he would. I don't know if he would be like a top eight rotation guy on an NBA team, but he certainly could be in the NBA if he wanted to be.
I think that was the one that was on Oklahoma City last year and then got
Was
traded
he?
to Charlotte, but he didn't play
Okay.
much. Like he played like seven. He
Right, yeah,
wasn't in
yeah. So
rotation.
like even
Yeah.
those guys are like in
Yeah.
the NBA, like Jovic, right? Like, he's to most people not
Right.
a known commodity, but he's in the NBA. Or the who's the Strazel, the other France guard was, who hit the big shot against Japan. Um, those guys are not NBA players literally, but they're some of the how many players in the NBA? What's the number they always say? The
15 times 30 is like
Yeah, what do
450
they say? The
players.
450s, and like they
Yeah.
say the
Yeah.
Union, like there's some of the 450 best players in the world. Pretty
Yeah.
much everyone in the tournament is in that. So yeah, it was awesome. Obviously, I'm a Steph stan, so it was
That was fun.
electric, and
Yeah.
not just because of the shots, but also like it was kind of the one thing missing from his resume, and the haters would have held it against him, and um, it was just fun to watch him kind of do nothing for a little bit. But of course, Steph is the guy who more than any player in the league can probably affect a game without doing a single thing.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, for him to hit those shots against France, that's like some of the best offensive basketball you'll see anywhere ever.
Where does that moment rank? Like that moment of in the gold medal game where he went off in the fourth quarter and scored whatever, like 12 of the final 14 points or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
I mean, to me, the best shot he's ever hit is will still always be the one against OKC, that regular season game, where he just like pulled up from half court.
Yeah, game winner. Yeah,
But obviously the stakes were much higher in this one, and for his good, I mean, I guess like he didn't have like a single moment right in that Celtics series. He was just unbelievable. And what was it, game 4 that he was ridiculous in? One of those games where he like really went off. So like that was the best he ever played, was the Boston series, but he didn't have a single, that the 3 with 2 guys falling all over him is probably the biggest single shot he's ever hit.
Yeah, and going back to the competition level, like of the opposing teams, I mean, they didn't have the best player in the Olympics, probably, right? I mean, Jokic is probably the best player in the Olympics, 3-time MVP.
Yeah.
They might not have had the second best player in the Olympics if you think Giannis is.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis was awesome. I didn't watch a lot of them, but just watch a lot of Greece, but just based on the stats and how they played, considering that's a team that does not have a lot of NBA talent.
No.
And
I'm not even just saying like NBA like quality, like ranked NBA players. Jokic is usually number 1, and maybe Embiid number 2, or Giannis number 2, right? So you could argue.
I mean, Luka. I know he wasn't in the tournament, but like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a totally different ball game. I think this was the best Team USA team ever. I don't think 2028 will be probably even close, because LeBron and Steph aren't going to be in there. Probably KD. I mean, I guess maybe KD will be in there, but he won't be the same. He's going to be a lot older, right?
Yeah, he could do the late career Carmelo thing for the team, would be the role, but
it's going to be Anthony Edwards. It's going to be maybe Devin Booker, right? Anthony Davis, maybe Bam. Like, it's going to be a much younger team. So yeah, this is like it was perfect timing for this group.
Yeah.
To finally play together, and they got it done.
Yeah, I think it's important to like appreciate that and remember that it's not normal, because 08 is obvious. This was the best. Like 08 was the last time they had like a real super team. Right. Or if you look at that roster, like how many Hall of Famers were on that roster? It's like basically the whole roster, essentially.
Basically the entire roster, yeah.
Yeah, which could be the same on this roster, honestly. Obviously, I mean, Derek White's probably not a Hall of Famer, but like every other player in that roster has at least a chance.
Drew Holiday.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Holiday, 2-time champion. Like he's one of the great other than if you count Draymond as a role player, then. Or if you don't count Draymond as a role player, like Drew is maybe the best role player of this generation, like him and Andre Iguodala. I'm looking at 08. I guess the non-Hall of Famers on that roster: Tayshaun Prince, Michael Redd, and Carlos Boozer, and Darren Williams. But obviously Darren Williams was incredible at that time. He just didn't have the longevity. But then you look at every other roster since then, like there's usually at least like 2 non-All-Stars. There's
was Michael Potter technically on this roster?
He was not.
He was not, okay.
He was on whatever
the exhibition game. Yeah. He played the exhibition game, so that's why I'm asking.
I mean, obviously last 2020 they had JaVale, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Grant. Like it was just not the same level. Obviously, I mean that's an obvious one, but like even the year before, like. There were years where it's DeAndre Jordan, right, who is technically an all-star, but not really. Like Harrison Barnes is on one of the teams. So this is pretty unusual to just have pretty much every important NBA player, other than Jaylen Brown probably, and Jalen Brunson. Yeah. Pretty much every important American NBA player, was on this roster, which is. Again, just really unusual, where if you basically want to take a snapshot of who the 17 most important players in the league are, if you're counting like foreign guys, like 15 of them were in the Olympics, which is that doesn't usually happen, essentially.
Are you saying Jimmy Butler's not important? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if he's one of the 17 most important players in the league anymore.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, you could argue he's better than some of the guys in that team.
Yeah.
So. But it's like they when they pick Derek White over Jalen Brown. I would say most people would think Jalen Brown's better than Derek White, but for the role, Derek White made sense. Same thing with Bam. I mean, Bam,
Yeah, they need
you know,
three centers. I mean, Bam is awesome in the international
yeah,
game. Like in some ways, I mean, I know centers don't typically age as well, but kind of feels like he's going to be the next like Carmelo KD, right? Where he'll be on the team again in 2028 probably. And he could be on the team again in 2032. What'll be like 35 then, which is, getting a little old for a center, but
at that point, if he has 3 gold medals, he'll probably be invited back. He's going to be
yeah,
like
and like unless
lifer,
they're, unless like there's three incredible, like Chet Holmgren is one of the best
right?
players in the league, and some of these other young or up and coming guys are really pan out. But like he's just so valuable in that context, especially if Spo's the coach, right? Then he's gonna be him and Devin Booker kind of feel like the two guys who are like really kind of the next generation of guys who have really embraced like the Team USA, the importance of playing for Team USA in the way that Carmelo did, and then Kevin Durant.
How about Jason Tatum? I know it's a weird one, but he has 2 gold medals now too, right?
Yeah, he
And
does.
he's
I
young,
mean, we'll see if
but
he plays in 2028. I still think he will. Like, I know
I do
there's people
too.
like he's going to be mad, but he's going to be one of the faces of the league in
Yeah,
2028. There's too many incentives for him to play. His role was big last time. Like, it's not like he was just been like shoved to the side twice in both of his Olympics. It was basically because LeBron and Kevin Durant are better than him right now. Like, they still are. I know, like, it's Jason Tatum obviously had a better season than them, and is probably more likely to contend for MVPs and All NBA and all that kind of stuff over the next couple of years. But if you're playing one game, which is basically what the Olympics is, it's a single elimination tournament for the most part. There's shorter games. It's a shorter court. Um, Kevin Durant and LeBron James are still in that situation, like two of the, I don't know, 8 best players in the world. Like that was the real takeaway was that those three guys are. I don't know if they can do it over a long 82 game season and a bunch of 7 game series still because of their age, like just by themselves. But in that single, like you got to win one game, those are still
you're still the guys. Yeah,
it's those three, like Giannis, Jokic. I mean, even like I
Luca.
don't even yeah, Luca. Like that's
Yeah,
probably the top 6 to me at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah, I keep I know it's again I think we made this point last episode, but it's just amazing to me what LeBron can do at
I
39. It's
know.
just incredible. He was like we said, maybe you can argue with Steph, but consistency wise,
Yeah.
LeBron was the best player on a team full of like 10 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And he's going to be 40 years old in like a few months. That's ridiculous. And that's a credit to him and honest and like, I know MJ that he played an All-Star game in his final year or whatever final few years but it was more of like an honorary thing at that point. LeBron is like a legit All-Star still
Yeah.
at 39, 40 years old, which is just it's insane. I
Yeah.
don't know if we'll ever see anything like it.
I don't think I mean, this is a Heat show, so we don't need to get
Yeah.
into the ramifications of
LeBron
what
played
this
for the
means
Heat.
for
Yeah.
those, yeah, sure, of what this means for those Western Conference teams. But like, I have to imagine this changes a little bit of the thinking from the Lakers, Warriors, and Suns. I mean, obviously the Suns are going for it, and they don't have a lot of
Yeah.
moves left. But like the Lakers and Warriors, like your best player is still in the truly elite tier,
Yeah.
at least
Also,
when it
Anthony
comes to like
Davis
winning time. And Anthony Davis was awesome.
looked
I mean,
awesome.
honestly,
Yeah.
my takeaway is like the Suns and Lakers should be pretty good next year because those were the two, obviously Durant and LeBron were two of the, I don't know, 5 best players in the tournament. And Anthony Davis and Devin Booker were probably the 2 best role players
Yeah.
at least on the US team in the tournament.
If you surround those two guys with the right players, I think you have a good shot.
And if the
So
Suns had a point guard, like that's because that Booker, I mean, he was honestly a revelation to me from this tournament. And I've
yeah,
always been a Booker fan, but seeing him really, because he's kind of been a half point guard for, I don't know, even like the year they went to the finals. Like obviously they had Chris Paul, but Devin Booker had the ball in his hands a lot. Um, when he gets to like just really be a shooting guard and run around off the ball, like he's awesome. And he like when I talk about a guy who like really embraces being part of Team USA, like when some other guys could not adjust to playing with a million stars. And that's what you have to do in Team USA, unless you're one of the top 2 or 3 guys. He obviously did that. I mean, he was at he was all over the Olympics too. I saw he was at skateboarding, hanging out with Tony Hawk. Like he just clearly like had the right attitude for the whole thing. Um,
You had a vlog going.
yeah,
Oh,
he had the little
yeah.
camcorder.
Yeah.
So he had the right attitude about the whole thing. And I've always been a Booker fan. I know there's like some people are not. But to me, he was like I liked him, and I came away from that thinking like one that he is definitely going to be one of the faces of the team in 2028, and I think that's a good thing. And two, like you get him in the right situation, he can still be one. I don't know if people think of him as a top 10 NBA player right now, but um, I think he could still be in that conversation.
Yeah, and same thing. I mean, same thing for Bam. I guess similarly, where
Yeah,
like he only averaged 6 points and 3 rebounds and one
yeah. Bam
assist.
was another incredible role
But
player. He
like,
just wasn't kind of the Serbia matchup is not
yeah,
great for him.
yeah, and plus 32 over the during the Olympics. If you take in the exhibition schedule by
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
50 plus 60, like he was great, right? So and he made Heat history. We spoke about this, but like now that it's done, we can mention it again. He's the first Heat player in franchise history to win 2 gold medals while with the
Yeah.
Heat.
I was surprised Wade only had one
Wade has a bronze and a gold.
because he was in 04.
He was in
And then
04.
where those young guys didn't play enough, and then
Yeah,
08. I for whatever reason I thought he played in 12, but I guess that was like they
that
were
was
in the
already
finals every year,
yeah
so it was hard to play.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's no other Heat player has done that. Continues to add to Bam's resume, right? He's probably I don't want to jinx it, but probably going to win a third gold medal in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean 2028
Uh,
will be tough, but yeah, we can talk about
yeah,
that next, I think.
yeah. So it's good for Bam, and I think he proved that he does belong right on a team like that. Even though he's not he's not a top 5 player on the roster, but what he brings to the table defensively, like I said, he fits the international game really well.
And he
He
fit what Steve
on
Kerr
his
wanted to do,
hands.
where it was ball movement, right?
Yeah,
Because, like, I mean, you saw the two guys that frustrated him, I think, more than anyone were Embiid and Tatum. And those guys
right.
are probably the two worst passers on the roster.
Yeah, Bam is a good passer, and he doesn't need the ball in his hands to make an impact, right? We've seen that even
Yeah.
with the Heat. Like he can do other things without the ball, like on the defense and offensive end. He's a good screener. He can finish plays if you give him a good pass around the basket. Good, solid rebounder. So yeah, just a really solid, through 2 3 weeks for Bam.
Yeah. He was a little, I mean, I don't want to say like redundant with AD, but I think there were clearly two molds of big men they had on this roster, right? There was Embiid, and then there were
Bam, yeah,
AD and Bam, who could basically be the role player. So, there were certain matchups where just AD was slightly more favorable. But I mean, I think if Bam had to, like, if you flip those two guys minutes, like it's pretty similar. AD's a little bit better player than Bam, I think, at this point. But Bam was awesome. Like, and
yeah.
he exactly just fit exactly what you wanted. And like you said, he'll probably be on the team in 2028. AD says he wants to play in 2028. He'll be older, but it'll be in LA, so he'll be one of the faces of the team. But obviously, Bam should get even more opportunities. But other than
Is
that,
LeBron going to play in 2028?
I have. So here's my
LA?
idea. I think Bam or LeBron, KD, and Steph should be the 3-on-3 team.
That'd be awesome. I mean, I think that more people would watch that than actually the actual
Seriously.
5-on-5 basketball.
Now the
if that was
problem
the
is
case.
the problem with that is I wouldn't be surprised if any of those three guys play in 2028, especially within an LA.
Yeah.
Especially if LeBron is still playing
There's no
then for
way
the
LeBron is
Lakers.
still playing
I don't know.
44, but whatever. I mean, you never
Or if
know.
he like just retires, right? If he retired like a year
Yeah.
earlier and it's like I'm just gonna focus on Team USA basketball. Especially like I said, if it's in LA and we'll see if LeBron and Steph try to link up at some point. Like hard to imagine it, but after the last couple of weeks, it's hard. Like you can picture it too. So Spo will probably be the coach. I
Yeah.
think. I think you agree.
They said it's either Spo. I mean, the reports are Spo or
Yeah.
Ty Lue, but I think the thinking going into this Olympics was Spo was probably the next in line.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
I
let's
would say
assume it's
definitely
Spo. Let's assume AD, who said he wants to play, is healthy enough to play. Then it seems like the other locks would be
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards, Bam.
Tatum.
I think Tatum. I
Yeah,
would still call him a lock. I think
I do too.
he'll definitely be invited, right? So you got
Yeah.
Edwards, Bam, Tatum, Booker,
Paolo.
probably.
Paolo, probably a lock.
And then so then you get into the guys who were, and then like the other wild card would be Tyrese Halliburton, who's obviously in the age range where he should be on the team next year, considering he was on the team this year, but in fact, he didn't play a single minute, obviously. Didn't play a single meaningful minute. Means it's hard to just say he's a lock. So my question for you is, how many just like random role players will Spo put on the team? Will Max Strus be on the roster?
Gabe Vincent, Max Strus,
Yeah.
just to round it out.
Because as I said earlier, this was unusual where 11 of the 12 guys were like bona fide multiple time all-stars. Usually it's 9 out of 12 are like legit all-stars, 10 out of 12 at most, and even then like the 10th guy is like a Drew Holiday or a DeAndre Jordan, like really an overqualified role player.
Yeah.
So we don't think that like the old guys are going to be around, so there's some openings there.
KD could play.
KD could play. Steph said he's probably not, I think, right?
Yeah.
But
LeBron, let's say LeBron.
He would be like 40, right, Steph?
Yeah. Well, how old would KD be?
39, I think. Isn't he? I think he's a year younger than Steph.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 30. He's 35. Yeah, he'd be 30. He might play. But yeah, let's say they don't play. Let's say those 3 guys don't play. I have 10 right now that seem like decent chances to be on the team. Paolo, Booker, Tatum, AD, Bam, Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, and Chet Holmgren. That's 10. And that's 10, like, I mean, those.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like, obviously, like a guy like Jalen Brunson, there's always concerns about small guards. As we said, like AD, who knows? There were probably a couple other guys you mentioned that, and obviously an injury or two will almost always happen. That was pretty unusual this year that essentially no injuries affected selection. Like,
except Kawhi,
other than Kawhi, who shouldn't have been on the team anyway.
Right.
That should have just been Jaylen Brown probably from the start. But
yeah. Or Derek White. I mean,
Derek White. Like, they went with Derek White instead, obviously.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, but those 10 right there, like, they're. I mean, Brunson will be 31. Those prime.
If fewer than 8 of those guys are on the roster, it'd be pretty surprising, I think. Barring like a huge rash of injuries.
I agree. And then, I mean, who knows, right? We have 4 years, so maybe
Cooper Flag,
exactly.
AJ DeBatsana.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a younger roster, but they're not gonna have an issue filling that roster with all-stars, I don't think. Just looking from looking at that group, I mean, Paolo will probably be an all-star, Booker will probably be an all-star, Tatum was gonna be an all-star, AD, Bam, Halliburton. I mean, those guys are all.
Spo drive people crazy by being like, actually, Coel Ware is on this team.
We need a 3-point space. Duncan Robinson, you're on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see Spo's kind of influence on things because he is, such a unique thinker, right? And he has his way of doing things. But I think Steve Kerr was pretty good in a sense of like also sticking to his guns, right? Like there was a lot of calling out to play for Tatum. You have to give Tatum minutes, Halliburton minutes. They've dedicated their summer to the team. How could you not give them? How could you not play them? And he stuck to his system, and it worked. So
I'm done with like this charity case. Everyone's got to play in the Olympics. The competition's too good.
You can't.
We could do that in 2008 when we didn't call a single timeout, but you can't do that. And Tatum was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, and there, like you said, there were some redundancies on the roster, right? So you played
right. I mean,
Tatum
would have played his way. Yeah, Tatum would have played his way through it, but you're not going to let him play his way through it over having LeBron and Durant. Yeah. And every game, the games are short. 40-minute games are like short. Yeah. And every game, the pool play games, the U.S. won every one of those by like 15 plus, I think. But those games were competitive into the third quarter for the most part. Like
I don't think,
or at least at halftime, they were like, they were like 8-point games like they weren't over it by halftime. I don't think any of them. Maybe Puerto Rico. I don't think I watched that game. But Serbia, I guess they kind of ran out I think with the second quarter they kind of pulled away. But that team still has Jokic, so you just can't mess around in these short games. So yeah, I'm done with like the charity case. Everyone's got to play in the Olympics. And, maybe that means you've got to take more guys like Derek White, right, who are fine to not play. And Tyrese Halliburton, another guy I came away feeling pretty good about because he had a really good attitude about where he sat in the hierarchy. Like, that team has Steph and Anthony Edwards and Devin Booker. Like, you're not going to play over those guys. Drew Holiday. He's maybe a better player than Drew Holiday, although I don't know. Drew Holiday is also it's just like continues to grow in my estimation. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see after it's going to be 4 years, so the Tatum thing will be forgotten, I think, to a degree. The Jaylen Brown thing will be forgotten to a degree, but there are certain guys who might see what they saw this year and say, I'm not going to play on this team, so I don't want to come at all. I think that's stupid. You get to go to the Olympics and maybe win a gold
Yeah.
medal. Especially in LA, it's pretty
I was gonna
easy.
say, especially it's not like it's in a different country. It's in
Yeah.
LA. You don't have to leave, go travel without their family for weeks. It's pretty convenient.
I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to is, if Spo's the coach, is what they look like in the World Cup. I guess that would be what the World Cup's the year before, right? So
Yeah,
World Cup was last
2020.
year, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
it'll be 2027.
2027. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
be very interested to see what that team looks like, because that team it's not the Olympic team, but it tends to be the place where like you find the next generation of guys. One, like Edwards and Halliburton were two of the best guys on that team last cycle. I still always think about Durant that must have been 2011, right? When he went off in the World Cup before playing for the team in 2012. I guess Tatum was on the World Cup team last year too, I think. Or maybe that
Was
was
he?
maybe that was 2 cycles ago.
I don't think he was last year.
Maybe that was 2 cycles ago.
Jalen Brunson was on the team last year.
Yeah. So 2028 or
Paolo was on the team last year.
2027, you'll see maybe
Flag,
Cooper
those type of guys,
Flag, and those guys will have a chance to make the roster. But I also just think we've underachieved in the World Cup a lot because of how poor we've been at kind of like putting a team together and building chemistry quickly. And Spo is obviously like kind of the master of that. So he might find a couple of guys in that tournament that are unexpected who he falls in love with, and then
signs them the big contract.
I'm not even saying signs of big contracts, but a guy
Okay.
you think of just like a young role player all of a sudden is playing for Team USA.
Yeah.
And playing an important role.
Yeah, it could. I mean, that's Spo's system, right? He kind of
Herb
finds
Jones
guys that
or
fit
something,
certain
right?
roles.
Like, yeah.
Defensive stopper, like plays.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah, I mean that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, because I mean a lot of these stars have already come out that were on this Team USA team. They're like, nah, I'm not playing. I think it was Anthony Edwards said like, hell no, when they asked him if he's playing in the World Cup. Yeah. I mean those guys aren't going to be on that roster. So yeah, it's like the next generation of guys, maybe some role players that didn't get a chance to play in the Olympics that get a chance to play in the World Cup. But yeah, it's a different level of talent on the World Cup roster compared to the Olympics.
All right, before we get to this wrap up of the schedule, did you have any other just general Olympic thoughts? Did you watch a lot?
Yeah, I watched.
I know this is this is kind of the quiet time of the year for you, so you got
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm actually on vacation still right now. I'm vacation, like a staycation. I'm home.
Yeah.
Off. Yeah, I wrote off all the games pretty much except for the Puerto Rico games. I was out of town. I wrote off all the games. I mean, I guess the other thing would be Jovic, right? I mean, he kind of had an uneven Olympics. He was in the rotation to start, missed a game. I think he missed the quarterfinals because he was sick, and then he barely played in the semifinals and final. I think he played like 2 minutes in each game.
Yeah.
So I guess some people would say it's concerning that he wasn't able to get into the rotation for Serbia, right? And late in the tournament, but he was coming off an injury. He had a sprained ankle. He had a fractured toe in June. He didn't participate in training camp with Serbia. Did he even play? I think he played in maybe 1 or 2 exhibition games. Like he had a late start. He wasn't 100%. He was kind of working himself back into shape. So I wouldn't say it's reason for concern that he didn't have like a great Olympics. I just think it was circumstances, like unfortunate circumstances that dictated that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. You see, especially with these foreign teams, like there's chemistry is so important where, yes, if you're Jokic, you can like get thrown into a roster that's been playing together for a long time and it's not an issue, but Jovic, who'd never played with the Serbian team before, maybe he played in the World Cup last year, I guess.
But that was without Jokic, though.
Without Jokic. So, and those guys, and I'm not comparing them at all, but they are kind of similar in that they're big, ball dominant, like in their best role. Jovic would be kind of the creator. So a little bit of redundancy there.
But hey, good for Jovic. Got a bronze medal.
Got a bronze medal. They only put gold medals up at Heat arenas, right? Only gold.
Only gold medals. He won't get a banner, but he's the 6th different Heat player to win an Olympic medal. So he's on an exclusive list with LeBron, Tim Hardaway, Bam, Alonzo, and Dwayne. Like arguably
Shaq, I
five of
guess, wasn't. Yeah,
the
he
top
wouldn't have been
eight.
playing then.
Yeah, five of the
Right, he didn't
top
play
eight
in '08.
eight
Yeah,
players ever. Now Jovic on the list, so good for him.
pretty good. Any other sports you watched a lot of? Anything you like got
Um,
really into?
I got into some of the swimming.
Yeah, I'm
I had
always a
the
swimming guy.
I got the flu like
Oh, bummer.
one of the weeks during the Olympics, so I was just like I was watching the Gold Zone like for 3 straight
Yeah,
days
Gold Zone was
nonstop.
incredible. Real revolution.
Oh my God. I mean, the way I know Olympics are really popular this time around, and like it was kind of a renaissance for the Olympics. But I think NBC Peacock deserves a lot of credit for that. We don't get that into it, but their broadcast, like the way they did it, was great. Like you could watch anything at any point, at any
Yeah,
time you want. It was just incredible. Like I've never experienced an Olympics like that.
yeah. Well, we
And
won 40 gold medals. Feel like I probably watched like 35 of those events live.
and you've never had the opportunity to do that. Like now,
Not really.
so
Yeah.
many
I
things
mean,
that you
time
can
zone
just,
helps too, right? Like,
yeah,
no, they weren't giving out pretty much any gold medals before like in
7
events
a.m.
that we were competitive before like 8 a.m., right? Like
Yeah.
something like the triathlon distance stuff that's early in the morning. A lot of ping pong, badminton was going on early in the morning, but diving. But swimming obviously was all middle of the afternoon, track and field. So stuff we were really good at was um I mean, I'm always a swimming guy. It was kind of a disappointing Olympics for us in the pool, although my girl Katie Ledecky from Montgomery County, Maryland, continues to be
Needs to dominate.
the goat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Women's soccer. I really liked watching this women's soccer team, which had been kind of not fun to watch the last
That was
couple
fun.
times. So
Rugby too. Rugby was fun too.
rugby was fun too. Yeah, I got into that
Real
early
fun.
on. That was like right out the gate in the Olympics, and even the men's team. I know they didn't medal, but they tied France in a game. That was pretty fun. And their best player is a former Eagles wide receiver. So
Really?
very briefly, only in a training camp 1 year.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it was a good few weeks, especially like that time of the year.
Oh my God!
There's
Now
not
they
really
got
much
nothing to
going on. It's great.
watch.
I know. We're just waiting for college football to start, like counting
I
down
know,
the
which
days.
is like this weekend, I think.
I know.
Right?
I
Yeah.
know.
So
Yeah. I'm excited to watch College Game Day on Saturday. Wake up and watch College Game Day.
yeah,
That's
for
like the
real.
official start of football season.
Yeah, I saw it's in like the mid 60s, high 50s in some of the Northeast right now. So
God,
like they're
bring
getting
bring that
fall weather. Yeah,
bring that down here, please.
seriously. All right, quick schedule talk. Big takeaway: the Heat, the drop in nationally televised games. But I was not surprised at all because the Heat were kind of, frankly, especially in the regular season, and not that the playoffs were any better, one of the least interesting teams in the NBA last year.
Yeah, I mean that's 16 national TV appearances when the schedules were released last season. Obviously, they're coming off an NBA Finals appearance, so it's a little bit different than this year when they're coming off a first round exit and not really a big upgrade to the roster.
Yeah.
So 16 last year to 7 scheduled national TV appearances this year. This is excluding NBA TV because NBA TV, not everyone has NBA TV, right? So this is just including ESPN, TNT,
Right.
ABC, which the Heat are scheduled for no ABC games as of now. So 16 to 7 was a big drop off. But yeah, like you said, I'm not that surprised because they have been one of the worst offensive teams in the league the last 2 years, right? They
Mhm.
didn't make a significant upgrade to the roster in free agency or through a trade this year. Last year, I think it was kind of high, 16, because the thinking was at that point that they might get Dame. That number went down as the year went
Yeah.
on. When they didn't get Dame, I think a couple of those games were dropped.
Right, wasn't a Blaze. There was the first Blazers,
Blazers
game. Like
game, yeah.
game would not have been scheduled for any reason other than
No.
Dame.
Other than Dame, the Dame reunion, right? So yeah, I'm not that surprised, but it is like when you look at, I think I would have it here. When you look at where that ranks, like in the league as far as national TV appearances right now, I think it's 18th, which is pretty. I mean, that kind of shows you what the thinking is with the Heat this year.
I mean,
18th behind
what was,
teams like.
what was
behind
the
teams
Heat's
like-
record last year? They were like the 18th best
Yeah.
team in the league, probably. So
Yeah. So I mean, they're behind teams like New Orleans, Indiana, Memphis, which Memphis isn't a surprise. Cleveland.
Ja's the other guy
City,
we should mention. We
San
should have mentioned
Antonio.
with Team USA, by the way.
That's a good one. So that's 11. I mean, they're not going to have an issue unless, like you said,
Yeah.
there might be injuries. Maybe one or two of those guys can't play, but or they go deep into the playoffs that year and they don't go play in the Olympics. But they shouldn't have an issue filling that roster with all stars. I really don't think so. But yeah, they're 18th in national TV games right now. So yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, if you're surprised, like, why would you be surprised? Because I think most Heat fans would say this is not like an exciting team, right, to watch. Other than like you're a Heat fan, you want to see how they do, and they play a certain style. But as far as like aesthetically pleasing basketball, I mean, there are teams out there that have better rosters for that. So yeah, I'm not that surprised, but yeah, it was like the biggest takeaway from the release because last year they had so many, and this year there was a 9 game drop off.
Yeah. Not a whole lot else to say. Any like games just kind of stand out, maybe of those national TV or anything like that?
Well, it's not a specific game, but I think the stretch to start the year will be really telling. They have 8 of their first 12 on the road, including a long 6 game West Coast trip. Actually, it's like a West Coast trip that ends in Indiana. It's a really difficult trip. Phoenix, Denver, Minnesota, Detroit, and then 2 games in Indiana. 5 of those 6 games come against teams that made the playoffs last year. Like that's not an easy stretch. So you're talking about after that 12 game, those first 12 games, like where are he going to stand
Hmm.
after that challenging of a start? So that will be interesting. And then the other end of that is that I think 18 of their final 26 games of the season are at home. So they could really close the year strong because of the way their schedule falls. But I think the start is going to be difficult. And Heat Twitter, the Heat fan base is if they start 5-7, people are not going to be pleased. But that's the way the schedule kind of breaks right now.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
going to
I think that's bad
be
because it has been such a kind of, I don't want to say miserable couple of years, but like I don't know, just it feels like they've really struggled to build any kind of momentum over the last. I mean, other than obviously in the regular season, struggled to build pretty much any momentum at any point. You'd really like them to be able to get off to a fast
yeah,
start where you get to see them at the top of the standings because they've not been like top three in the conference at like any point in the last 2 years, probably, right? Like they're just have typically started a little slow and
yeah. They come to like
obviously,
5 or something like that, and that's
yeah,
about it.
obviously 2 years ago they made the finals out of the play-in, but like you would like to see them just have a good regular season at some point because it's pretty helpful instead of having to play the number one seed every year.
For sure, for sure. And I think, like you said, the whole narrative surrounding this roster, whether it's right or wrong, if they get off to a bad start, it's good. That's going to only kind
Yeah.
of give those who are doubting this team more reason to kind of be louder, right? I know this players and coaches don't care about that, but as an outside observer, like that does kind of paint the portrayal of this team, the outside
Hmm.
portrayal of this team. Like when if they're 5-7 or 4-8, like it's not going to be many. There aren't going to be many positive things being said about this roster. So yeah, you would like to see kind of get off to a fast start, kind of quiet that, and be able to start the year fresh, and maybe build some momentum. And they might do that, but the schedule is not going to is going to make it hard, just because of not only the road games but the opponents. For those road games, it's not
Yeah.
easy.
All right. I think we can close things out there. I can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. He is on vacation though, as he noted. What's up next for you? What's next on the horizon in terms of Heat stuff to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't officially announced it yet, and I'm guessing they'll officially announce it at some point soon. They're gonna hold training camp at Baha Mar. They've kind of been hinting at that. They sent a promotional email. He sent a promotional email last weekend, um, I think for season ticket holders or for members, that are signed up for the newsletter. That you can
Hmm.
there's a contest to be able to attend training camp and go to Baha Mar, and so they didn't announce it, but they kind of said that that's what they're holding training camp already. So that will be like that. We're waiting for that announcement. Other than that, it's like, yeah, I think like the unofficial, official start of like players really seriously getting ready for the season is after Labor Day. That's when guys like start going to facilities and starting upping their workouts,
Hmm.
scrimmaging, like all that stuff. So I think up until Labor Day, it's pretty quiet, and after that, you'll see things start to pick up. But yeah, this is the time when everyone's on vacation. Like
Yeah.
this August is, especially in an Olympic year like this, August is the time when everyone kind of goes their separate ways, and then once Labor Day comes around, more people are walking through those facilities, working out and getting basketball working.
Cool. All right. We'll close things out there. Thanks as always for listening. We will talk to you guys next week.